There we go.
Thank you. So again, my name is John Blakeney. I'm one of the co-facilitators along with Jacques Alexis with the Evidence-Based Project Management Roundtable as part of the Mass Bay Chapter of the PMI. We have a great speaker today, Dr. Sriram Rajagopalan. Before I pass it off to him, I wanted to say a couple things. One, thank you for coming, especially over the summertime. I know times are busy and people are on vacations. We do appreciate you joining today's session. I also wanted to state that the PMI Mass Bay Chapter has a lot of activities going on. While we appreciate you coming to ours every once a month on the Thursdays, please check out the events page on the PMI Mass Bay Chapter. For example, they do actually have an upcoming event, the 45th anniversary celebration that's taking place on September 22nd, which I believe is at City Winery in Boston. But please come and network, see your peers. And it's the 45th anniversary of the chapter. We've been around for quite a bit. And we also have other roundtables as well. We actually have virtual office hours for people to start to network, but please check out the other roundtables as well and try to get those PDU credits as well. With that, I'm happy to introduce you to Dr. Sriram Rajagopalan, who will be talking about the emerging WoW while implementing business agility through value streams. And to give you more information about our speaker, he founded the Agile Training Champions, which helps make a difference for professionals and high school learners to improve themselves. As an enterprise Agile Evangelist at Inflectra, he offers process consulting and product training for all his clients across many industries. He managed the project management office, proposition delivery, and operational excellence at the vice president capacity, and delivered numerous projects and programs for many companies in many industries. He's also written a book called Organized Common Sense: Why Do Project Management Skills Apply to Everyone? And which focuses on introducing project and agile principles to high school students through his initiatives called Project Leaders of Tomorrow. I can go on, but I think you're not really interested in hearing about me or from me. I want to hand it off to our speaker, Dr. Sriram Rajagopalan. Please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about the emerging WoW while implementing business agility through value streams. So let's make sure that we are all able to see the screen. Can people give me a thumbs up that you are able to see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. Very good. All right. So I'm not going to skip the, there you go. People are able to put the thumbs up, so which means we are engaged. Okay, very good. So I'm going to skip this particular slide where we are talking about introduction about me. I'm going to skip this. We talked about this also, so I'm going to miss this, skip this. So I'm sure you are probably now thinking emerging WoW, implementing business agility through value streams. So three important elements over here. And where am I going? Right? I'm sure you must be thinking in your head, like, where is this talk going? What are going to be the takeaways and stuff like that? But before we even start thinking in terms of where I want you to get exposure to, let's talk about where is the world going? Where are we going as a community, as a global community? If you take a look at this, more and more, all these problems that are repeating is physical and mental state of health. And this has got nothing to do with, the COVID pandemic that we had. But even before that, there is lots of physical and mental health challenges that are coming up. And the world is repeatedly seeing about the social inequity. We don't need to go into the details behind them, but we are seeing them throughout the news channels. Workplace diversity. We seem to focus more about diversity, equity, inclusivity, focusing on belongingness. These things are continuously emerging. And if you look at the global level immigration, where people are seeking asylum in other places, leaving countries because of lots of geopolitical unrest, many things are emerging. Trade and tariffs being introduced at various levels. And that is also continuously looking at how organizations are adapting, how individuals are adapting and stuff like that. And budget challenges all over the place in terms of how currency risks, inflation risks, many other things are repeatedly coming up. And these are some of the typical things that all of you would be exposed to in any shape or form, in some shape or form, actually, as a matter of fact. But the expectation is that all these things are going to be constantly supporting each other. One supports the other, and there is a cascade domino effect that is repeatedly happening in all those places, right? The expectation is what? Oh, we have technology. The technology is going to come here and solve. What is the fourth industrial revolution technology space? And that is going to come and solve all our problems. The question for all of us to, really think is, are they, right? When you take a look at the fourth industrial revolution space, many people do not know what 4IR stands for. But as soon as I say these are the things, everybody will say, yeah, of course I know that, right? Robotic process automation. And we are talking about Internet of Things, where everything is going to be constantly being monitored at this point. Simulation activities at various levels, artificial intelligence and machine learning as a result of that. Constantly looking at structured, semi-structured, unstructured decision-making and stuff like that, cybersecurity related problems, systems integration, how everything is coming together as one particular system, cloud-related, computing-related challenges, 3D technology, and big data, which is like, you are either part of the data or you are producing the data. Either way, you are part of the data, and augmented virtual reality, and many of these things are coming up. But to go back and ask ourselves, are all these technologies really coming and solving the problems that we talked about? We seem to create solutions, not necessarily thinking how those solutions are going to be having an impact in the larger space. Take ChatGPT, for instance. It was a language model, more of a beta, pilot. But it was released, and now people are becoming dependent on technology, right? So these are things to constantly look for. Are we actually helping, or are we sometimes even hurting, right? So to think about whether we are solving these problems is where we need to focus on. And when we talk about these things, the next thing that people come back and say, oh, don't worry about this. We are using Agile. We are into DevOps. And now those problems are already taken care of. And I translated that as a state question here, but I get this as a statement from many of my Agile transformation journeys. Many people come and say, don't worry about this, Sriram, it's all taken care of. And I say, okay, probably not in my lifetime, but let's see. When you take a look at reasons for going Agile in the first place to begin with, the idea is that we need to put a time box, like a 2-week, 3-week, whatever the sustainable pace is. Why? Because we want to limit the amount of work that we will take, the scope of work. As a result, the amount of exposure associated with the things that we say we will do. And we all have to come together and say, this is how we are going to work together. So the expected self-organization, cross-functional elements, and all those things are expected. As a result, we are constantly helping quality. Quality is not an afterthought. Quality is part of by design, right? But let's take a look at the state of Agile. And I've been monitoring this for quite some years since the state of Agile came, but I have picked up the last 4 or 5 years, and I have intentionally adopted 20, primarily because it was focusing mainly on the COVID-related pandemic issues. And after that, some things did not get reported at all. So I am picking up the last few years. So accelerating software delivery is the reason why we said we wanted to go Agile. But if you look at the pattern, we are moving from 75 all the way to 64. We said we would like to be able to adapt to change as fast as possible, but managing changing priorities, we are at the 64% mark, 2/3 of the mark. Our productivity is supposed to be increasing because we are working on a sustainable pace that we all came together and said we will work on. And that is hovering, less than 40%, 47% right now. Alignment of how everybody is working together is hovering again in the less than 50% mark. Increase the software quality, the expectation was increase the software quality and not necessarily giving, basic software quality, but augmented increased software quality is less than 50%. So the agile approach really have solved the problem? If people problems are not solved, agile is not going to come and solve the problem. In fact, agile has been present for several decades, although it has been prevalent only in the last 2 decades or so, right? So you can see here, we are not able to crack the ice open here very clearly, right? The agile ceremonies, because we don't want to have huge planning events, we don't have to have project status meetings, and we came back and said these are the 4 ceremonies that we will operate under, right? Even that is growing down. We don't do any iteration planning as much as we should do. We don't do retrospective, and we don't even do review. So if everything that we are supposed to be committing to work in terms of 2 weeks is expected to be the one that product increment is releasing, then how can you have no iteration review or 20% iteration review? How can you do this? And these are the reasons why we are seeing the problems. 80% of the problems are caused because of the 20% that we don't do. And in project management, we call it Pareto principle, right? Retrospective, not learning. And iteration planning, not doing as much as we should, or not being prepared for it as much as we should. And daily stand-up, we come for a daily stand-up meeting for 15 minutes that is supposed to be taking 15 minutes, but it is taking for more than 1 hour. Is that expectation of agility here? It's not. Pretty much everything has to be 100% or hovering more than 90%, but we seem to pick and choose. Flash news here, these agile ceremonies have not even been reported since 2022. So what's the point in reporting them? Because it's going to give you a negative input. Let's drop it. Let's put everything in the positive limelight alone. Right? Now let's take a look at some of the foundational messages here. Time boxing, therefore, alone does not give you the quality. Furthermore, team practices does not bring business agility. Why does the business exist? Business case is the justification document, and we don't even know what the business case exists for a specific product that we are trying to do. So how can you improve business agility in this case? We're not. So agile, therefore, is not a panacea. So if you came and said we are agile and so we have solved all the world's problem, think again. Now let's take a look at those DevOps engineering practices. Now, whenever you look at the DevOps engineering practices, these are the things that we come up with, unit testing, coding standards, continuous integration, refactoring. I'm not going to read everything over here, but these are the things that we keep talking about. Now let's take a look at these points here. If you scroll from the right-hand side or towards the screen here, emergent design, behavior-driven development, sustainable pace, acceptance testing, automated acceptance testing, all these things are less than 30%. If you're not designing the solution right, how do you expect the testing somehow to increase quality? And if you take a look at this from the right-hand side or the left-hand side approach, unit testing, coding standard, they're all growing down. So if you don't do just enough unit testing, if you don't do just enough coding standards, then how are we going to actually improve quality? This is called the blame game. I would like to make this somebody else's problem so that it is not my problem, right? This is what is constantly going up. But the question to ask is, what is the impact of all these engineering practices on business value generation? What's the business impact? What's the customer's impact? And how the society is not benefiting because we didn't do our job right? Flash news again. All these things were dropped. Why? Because we are constantly saying we're not seeing the momentum that we need to see. As a result, let's not report them. Instead, we started focusing on tools. How many people are using Microsoft Project? How many people are using this particular tool versus that particular tool? I don't want to put any tool here, but how are people putting this particular tool or that particular tool? And tools are increasing by the numbers. We seem to have tools that are focusing on one element of the project delivery aspect, not necessarily the entire spectrum. So as a result, we are becoming slaves to the tools that we use, and our ability to do work is depending upon what the tools provide. Now, team level practices, therefore, are important. We need that. All the things that I mentioned over there are important. We're not going to say that we will throw away all those things, even though the state of Agile doesn't report them. But that's insufficient for business value. So what do we need? Cross-functional agility. All of us should be able to think in multiple dimensions. Yes, I may be an artificial intelligence engineer. I may be a quality engineer. I may be a developer, designer, tester, creative writer, content writer, whatever script writer, whatever name that we give as a job, we need to actually start looking at it from multiple angles. And this is already seen. BA becoming like a project manager thinking like an account manager, development person thinking like an operation person, developer thinking like a tester thinking like a developer, ops person thinking like a developer. All these things are constantly present. We just are seeing what we would like to see or what we prefer to see. Now, I'm sure at this point, I have given you enough information to say this is time for change, right? What do we need to change then? Let's take a look at this. Emerging ways of working. So I did some basic research into this, and I came up with 10 different terms or 10 different predictions that I feel that are coming up, right? And those things are summarized in these 4 important areas. First, talent shortage. I'm not telling job shortage, but we are having talent shortage. We do have people to fill the work, but we don't have the capabilities in them to actually do the work. Competency, therefore, is a function of capability. The next one is more about sustainable space. And United Nations came up with 17 goals and how we are doing this and stuff like that. But non-human resources are not going to be human resources are not going to be competing at the same rate as non-human resources. Now, why do I say this? If you go to AWS and Azure and all those things, you'll say we have 11.9 availability, like 9.999999999 availability. Are we available that much percentage? Our enthusiasm to do the work wanes based upon many other reasons. So we are not always 100% productive. We are not even always 80% productive. But we expect 100% results. How? Right? So efforts is a function of our well-being. The next one is going to be technology convergence. Technology is improving and accelerating at a rate faster than humans are able to actually catch up. But it's a human intelligence that has evolved a longer period of time than artificial intelligences. Right? So our ability to spot risks are very important. In fact, what is the very purpose behind artificial intelligence? To release capacity for us to do more important things. So artificial intelligence, all the decision making there is going to be a function of human intelligence. That's the reason why the digital ethics really require autonomy in all the decision making, even in the AI ML space. For those of you that want to know more about the confusion matrix, the false positive, false negative, you can go read about those things, right? Now, the management debt, it's not technical debt, it's management debt. This is something that I coined. Management is to lead with autonomy for smart work, not hard work. But we need to have appropriate controls in place to make sure that people are doing the right thing at the right time in the right place. And if we don't prepare for that with our cross-functional leadership, we will come back and say leadership is going to be a failure, right? So what are those trends as a result of that? I want all of you to start taking a look into these things and say, how can I be the change agent for everything that I would like to see in the world? Many times, some of these things are not developed. Some risk management protocols may not exist in your company. Some value delivery protocols may not exist in your company. But the expectation is, give me everything so that I will be able to do that. Well, if I give you everything, where is agility then? Right? So what are some of my predictions? First, attracting and retraining talent. That's enough said about that. I want to make sure that I'm able to attract as well as retain talent. And that means continuous focus. The next one is training for continuous learning. How do I prepare you for the future jobs and roles that are coming up? You may have received a job because of your current qualification, but you're not going to retain the job based upon the existing qualifications alone. And none of the universities, none of the colleges, none of the practitioner training is going to prepare you for the future. Only you can. Right? So automation and quality focus. Quality is taking a lot more central focus over here. Even when you automate, those automated scripts have to be managed. Sometimes they have to be changing. They have to be retired. Who is managing that? There needs to be a quality engineering focus that needs to play. And some of you may have been exposed to this. The quality requires the quality strategy, which is quality planning. I'm not talking just quality control. I'm talking about cost of quality in terms of both quality assurance and quality control as part of quality planning. Those things are emerging. And with automation, there is more coming in that particular space. Fourth, scaling agile. I did not say scaled agile. I said scaling agile. There's a difference over here because there are different frameworks. SAFe is only one of the frameworks. It's not the only framework. But if you go back to some of the previous things, if you are really struggling to actually do in one team, adopting agile and implementing agile correctly, how can we actually scale agile to multiple teams and at a higher teams level without necessarily changing the way we think and operate? Next, increase IT and expense spending. With respect to all the governance that is going around right now, there is more and more increased IT spending where we are saying like we need to actually start looking at this in a different way. The products are no longer, websites and mobile apps. We are talking about a mobile app actually talking to a cardiac pacemaker, an intelligent bridge that is telling, don't send me any more traffic here. We are going into different spaces here at this point, right? So more and more requirements of how requirements are gathered and how it is structured, designed, developed, tested, and maintained is evolving. API and governance. So multiple things are talking constantly. Your Fitbit is talking to your mobile app is talking to some other things on the cloud, and the multiple APIs need to be in place. Without those things, AI, ML spaces cannot even exist. And prescriptive AI, ML, the key word here is prescriptive, not predictive. When you are able to come and say, you should do this, we are not allowing you because of your facial profile having changed. Well, our facial profile is going to constantly age. So how are we actually evolving ourselves to ensure that the predictive solution that we have done are actually prescriptive for ongoing basis? Outcome-based product management. And yeah, I'm sure, that a lot of you may have, heard some of the trends that people are talking about. Oh, we don't want project management. We are moving into product management. Well, by definition, a project is a temporary endeavor to deliver a unique product, service, or result. So if you don't have project management thinking, how can you have product management thinking? And scope, schedule, cost, time, people, resources, capabilities, stakeholders, vendors, communication, pretty much risk, everything is part of product management as well. So are you saying like we don't want any of these things with project management because somehow we are product managers now? Those are the problems that we are seeing. And environmentally aware, from more and more people are becoming so environmentally aware that, when you come back and say, I would like to have a second CPU running, I have a third server running and stuff like that, they are immediately saying how much heat this will generate and what will be the impact of the environment. People are going to that level already. And finally, the metaverse, like where you are creating your own avatar and where the avatar represents you for decision making, where you are not being able to represent yourself. Now we are getting into a lot more advanced areas over here. Now these things will emerge, and my projected timeline here is going to be across all of them. And in 2023 we will start seeing some of these emerging talents. We will be requiring to see how we will continuously have new talent capabilities, and we are seeing this. Colleges are adjusting, universities are adjusting, practitioner columns are adjusting, new certifications are emerging to address those things. They are coming up. And in 2024, training will take a lot more focus on learning. What did you learn out of this rather than, I trained you? Prescriptive AML solutions will emerge, focusing on outcome management again. And into emergence will be on governance and scalability with automation and quality. And in 2026, my prediction is that scaling agile projects will start working up. Because right now we are in the early stages. We haven't reached that threshold yet. And in 2027, more IT spending will start taking the focus, and environmentally aware firms will become more consolidated, and the metaverse will become its own newer dimensions at this point. Right? So I expect that all these things will continuously emerge, and some of them will iteratively develop. So in many other places that I do this, because of a short time frame, I will not put the poll here, but in other places where I have done this and it's a larger workshop, I used to have this poll, and people have come back and said, there is nothing more that I am seeing other than these trends. And these are the trends that people are repeatedly seeing. And if you look at this, attractive and retaining talent, automation quality, training continuous, those are the 3 or 4 things that are taking up much of the space. So if you think about the 80-20 rule, where should I focus on? It's not metaverse. It's not API governance. It's not IT spending. It's not AIML. It's like, how do I make sure that I have the right talent to do the right thing in the right place, which means you need to be able to ask the right questions. So let's take a look at this from a different angle, from a PMI Pulse of Profession reports. They came back and said, these are the things that I would like, the trend to be emerging on. High drivers for project success. It's not what the project managers currently tell, it's also what the team members are telling what the project definition should be. Low level of scope creep, which we know, frequent use of standardized risk management, stakeholder engagement, and many other things. You can read these things over here. But if you look at this, high project success is what all of us are constantly telling, like, oh, on budget, on scope, on time. And we put all these earned value thought process and start looking at how we are evaluating the project and stuff like that. But a basic rule of project management is not necessarily telling what is going to be the lagging indicators, but also the leading indicators, right? So a few other things that are not being done that we need to focus on is the use of standardized risk management, engagement, and organizational agility. So 4 zones of challenge emerge. And this is how I categorize all these things and say leading people. How do you identify and nurture and get the people to be where they need to be? Not where they are, but where they need to be. How do I prepare them? The next one is going to be scaling processes. The processes have to be modified. Some have to give in, some have to be introduced new, some have to be modified. What do I do? When do I do? How do I do? Next one is controlling technology. The focus here is not about using technology or getting used to technology, but making sure that we are controlling technology. And I'm sure you have seen movies that are coming up like Megan and a few other movies where the technology takes over the people. Well, eventually that may happen. If technology is really that good, technology may take over people. But how do we make sure that we control them? There needs to be checks and balances. And governing organizations, how can organizations make sure that they are using both the people and the technology talent appropriately? Now, the few important things, I mentioned these things before, the new emerging talent that are coming up, training and development, and start sooner with people and talent technology. These things are repeatedly coming up. And the most important thing, a message that I would like to leave on these areas is going to be leading with empathy. It's not sympathy. It's empathy, you taking action. It's not somebody else doing that action for you. It's you taking your own action. The next one is on the processes. We talked about automation, quality, scaling agile, and start with the end in mind thought process, right? When you take a look at this, continuously focus on principles. What are the quality principles? And in fact, I even asked, can you define a couple of important elements about quality? People cannot articulate that. Oh, conformance scope. Is that the only definition? What about fitness for use or fitness for purpose? What about cost of, people do not focus on principles because there is limited attention span. I just want to, get something to quick win. When you take a look at the technology, we have talked enough about the technology here, but when you take a look at the technology, the message that I would like to leave you is high touch is always greater than high tech. Technology is here to serve us. Yes, technology have created its own business models and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it is supposed to serve the human population. It needs to solve a problem. So high touch is always important than high tech. That relationship building, that stakeholder engagement, those are important. And finally, when it comes to organization, when it comes to middle management and above, you want to start focusing on leadership starting with you. And I specifically put you in uppercase because you are the one that is going to lead. All right, so let's talk about this. Which messages of the 4 really resonate with you? If you want to put it on the chat, I won't be reading this, but I just wanted to get some ideas in terms of how you are engaging the visual, kinesthetic, and oral learning here. So put some thoughts in terms of what message resonates with you down. I'm sure at this point you must be wondering, like, okay, Sriram, this is all great. I understand all these trends, but how does this connect with the business agility? So we have talked about some of the elements, and I need to make the connections at this point. Let's first of all define what is business agility. If you take a look at how scaled agile framework, this is specifically SAFe, how that is defined. Business agility is the ability to compete and thrive in the digital age by responding quickly to market changes, emerging opportunities with innovative, digitally enabled business solutions. Oh, that's a great mouthful. Doesn't tell me much. If you take a look at PMI Discipline Agile, which has Discipline Agile Delivery, another framework, business agility is the ability to quickly realize value predictably, sustainably, and with high quality. Now let's take a look at some of the key words that are come over here, not necessarily the entire sentence, but if you look at some of the key words in both these frameworks, you will see ability, which is equal to capability, emerging, which is your focus on future, market, what is the market that we are working on, innovative, predictability, sustainability. All these things are coming up, but these are the keywords that we have to start putting a check mark next to each one, every one of them. I know this framework, I can know this tool, I work. When I mean tool, it's not a commercial tool, it's a technique. Okay, the risk management framework is a tool, okay, not necessarily a specific tool within the risk management guideline. So I want you to start thinking in terms of what do I have to put a appropriate check mark as an individual, as a team member, as a middle manager, as a director of an organization or a vice president of an organization. What got you here is not always going to get you where you need to be. So we need to start looking at these elements. But business agility, there is another institute that is called business agility. And that business agility comes back and says, we need to have freedom, flexibility, and resilience to do the work. Team members have to be given autonomy as a result. All right, cool. Is that good enough? But the same business agility institute came back and said, we need to have capabilities, we need to have behaviors, and we need to emerge the wows. So without that wow of how I talked about all the different things, those things, you're not going to look at this in a business agility sense and deliver what you need to look at. Okay, now I'm able to make one connection here, but is this good enough? This is where we need more ability. And when you look at some of the work that we do, develop an individual development plan. Why should I help you if you are not able to help yourself? When I was a vice president of program management office, people will come back and say, I'm a project manager, I need you to send me for PMP certification. PMP certification is expected as part of your role. If you want to go and say, I would like to become a product manager, I can train you there, but I'm not going to train you on what you need to do. There is company initiative that is actually saying like, okay, you can expend up to $5,000 and get some training done on whatever you need to do. Have you tapped that? Where is your commitment before you ask my commitment? So those are behaviors that we need to emulate. Some thoughts to ponder as part of your work that you are trying to do here. Does working software always generate profit? And you can replace the software with anything, working healthcare, working constructions, working telecommunication. You can replace that with anything, but does that generate profit? If not, how are we supporting this as part of our performing organization? Next, does agile team mean agile business? This is where biggest problem comes in, because primarily people do not relate to what's happening in the market. Nobody questions. In fact, one of my agile transformation journey, I heard one of the team members come back and said, "Oh, you mean to say, Sriram, the product backlog should be visible to me? I thought it is only visible to product owner." So in what way we are supporting it? We are not supporting agility at individual levels, let alone agility at the team level. Agility is your ability to embrace change. Not like, the 4 agile manifesto principles that commercial agile talking about. I'm not talking about that. Right? Now, does agile team implement every change the customer asks? We should actually come back and say, what's the business need? What's the business impact if you don't deliver this? If you don't ask those critical questions and jump, just because the product owner came back and said jump, or project manager came back and said jump, are we really actually demonstrating agility? Your particular product, how is your product retained earning or cost connected with the cost of delivery is connected with your balance sheet or income statement? If you're not able to make that connection, you are not having business agility. You're just there to actually do the work. So we need to start looking at some anti-patterns over here. Some anti-patterns to value delivery. Why we are not able to deliver the business value. If you look at this framework copying, oh, I tried Scrum, it didn't work, so I'm going to go into Agile. Oh, I tried Scrum, it didn't work, I'm going to go into Kanban. Oh, the reason why we are failing is because we did not adopt SAFe. This is called framework copying. We are not learning from anything. In fact, progressive elaboration, progressive, incremental, elaboration, iterative. That's already part of project management definition. We don't need iterative and incremental. Oh, we look at a few phases alone. That's part of rolling wave planning. All these concepts already exist. We just need to put some marketing terms to make it different. Unfortunately, that is the case. But we are hopping from one framework to another framework to another framework. That's not going to be helping us. The next one is busy versus value. If you are busy, we must be producing value. If I sleep for 8 hours, am I producing value? Maybe I'm happy, but I'm not producing value. Right? Value has got no connection with how you are busy or not. The next one is going to be always learning. Oh, we are on a continuous learning mindset, but we are learning the same mistakes. Is that continuous learning? That's the reason why the retrospective is optional. The next one, not learning processes and not learning the appropriate tools of trade. So in what way actually are we actually supporting value delivery? These are some of the anti-patterns, right? So we come back and say, oh, we need to put it on somebody. We need to hang our problems on somebody. We come back and say it's leadership failure. Now, I would like to call this out very clearly. Our transformation fails because of leadership failure. It's not leadership at the top, it's the leadership in you. Each and every one of us, every individual is part of the leadership. It's not somebody with a title leader. Our leadership failed. So now let's talk about value stream. I've talked about value, but value differs from value streams. I need to make the connections over here. So let's take a look at this. When you do any product, for instance, you are doing some market study, you are actually developing the product, and then you are trying to let the world know what your product is about marketing. Each and every one of them, a project manager can fit in, and many other members can fit in over here. So I'm not trying to put any names here. But then there needs to be a product management functionality of how we are prioritizing, what are some of the must to do, should to do, could to do, want to do, and we have lots of different models there. And then how do we support the customers? So there are additional functionality that comes up, program management and stuff like that. And when you take it to the next level, we are basically coming and saying, okay, is this the right project we should work? Is this the right product we should actually fund? What's the opportunity cost of putting money on this particular work, whereas some other product could have benefited from us? So we are looking at all these multiple models of evaluation and stuff like that. And that's happening at the highest level, right? When you take a look at these, the development stream, which Scale Agile calls, ART or Agile Release Stream, operational value stream, and the other elements of strategic value streams, all these things are emerging right there. But where is value then? Value is from each and every one of us to all other cross-functional areas. So it's not delivering your unit testing. It's about how is this requirement properly tested, having proper quality controls in place, reaching the customer. But in order for us to think that way, we need to be able to think across the spectrum. This is one of the reasons why we say, T-shaped skills and stuff like that. Now, business value comes in these areas, how multiple teams are working together across the board. And this is where we talk about PI planning, pre-PI planning, program increment planning, program management, scrum of scrums, scrum of scrum of scrums. Depending upon the framework that you use, you can put all the terms. But fundamentally, this is it. So take yourself as a member of any one of these organizations or of these teams. How are you connecting to the program and portfolio? If you're not able to think vertically how things are flowing, then value streams are not there. You're only looking at Porter's value chain of, I started this and I moved it over here, input, output, input, output. But where is the outcome, benefit, value? That's why they differ. That's why value streams differ from value. In order for you to be a contributor of value stream mapping and value definition, value delivery, all these things that we are talking about, we want people to start thinking a lot more. In fact, we even started calling program management, portfolio management offices as value delivery office and value management office for exactly these reasons. Now let's take a look at SAFE. We are framework hopping, right? Does this apply anywhere in SAFE and Discipline Agile? I put some time on that as well. So this is the SAFE, portfolio approach over here, full portfolio. If you take a look at this, there you go. We are starting from here. We are moving into the actual product definition. We are prioritizing the solution and our backlog. From there, we are applying the Kanban delivery queue mechanisms. We are doing the CI/CD. From there, we are moving into the actual customer centricity and say if it made any sense. Logic exists. The flow is not vertical. So everybody focuses only on this particular thing alone that I am highlighting here. But value is flowing all over the place. So if you look at this, this is not the only thing that we want to focus on. There is also how management makes the appropriate decision and how we are supporting the decision throughout. So for people that can look, the reasons are obviously present, right? Now let's take a look at Discipline Agile. Oh, Sriram smoking guns here. Let's take a look at this, the Discipline Agile delivery here. This is the Discipline Agile approach. When you look at this, there are 3 different blades that they have. They call it blades. Everybody has to come with different terms, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, we cannot commercially market them. So Discipline DevOps. So that's the inner core. Right there, value stream, the middle management, how it is actually packaging everything together. And then at the top, how are we actually doing a discipline enterprise? The right projects, the right team, the right skills, the right capabilities, preparing them for the future and stuff like that. So right there is one vertical, one horizontal, one horizontal, one horizontal. But if you look at the pay attention here, vertical streams are coming up right there. So ideas are always present in each and everything. So connecting the value stream right now. So companies are always working on profit, whether it is going to be a for-profit company or for non-profit company. Even for non-profit company, there needs to be actually revenue that needs to be flowing in to support what they are trying to do. right? And they don't want the loss. They want to avoid loss, right? These are the reasons why the cost of goods sold is actually being looked at from general sales administrative purposes and stuff like that. Reasons behind restructuring and organizational changes and stuff like that. But what's the connection there? The connection is risk management. If we do not understand risk management effectively, we are not able to actually make the connection. So the connection to value stream flows, vertical and horizontal, is the risk, because people understand the word risk. When I say what's the business need, what's the business impact of non-delivery, non-compliance, non-conformance, those are all risks. Right? So risk is about, if you see it, say it. Be the eyes and ears of the law enforcement, in the transportation and airports and train station and stuff like that. Why? Because law enforcement cannot be everywhere. So if you see it, say it. Don't come and say it's not my responsibility, it's above my pay grade. It's also about, if you're not able to quantify it, I have a problem, and I'm not sure whether this is the right product at the right time. Let's marinate on this. Let's noodle on this. Let's discuss about why this is the case. In fact, if teams are not doing this, they are withdrawing. They are avoiding, which is a conflict resolution technique that we talk about in project management. Right? So risk is extremely important as part of your value mapping exercise. So let's take a look at this. What is the customer value add? Whenever you are looking at this, who is your customer? It's not the persona. As a user, I would like to do this so that I can get this benefit. Because is the user a blind user, a deaf user, an angry user? We're not putting all these characteristics. So what's the value add? If we don't deliver this functionality, will the customer actually move to a different product? We need to be able to understand that. The next one is, what's the business value add? Some documentation is really required. How many of you have purchased something from a medical product which does not include ISI, important safety information, or prescription guide? Oh, we are agile. We developed the product using an agile approach, so we did not include documentation. That's not necessarily acceptable. Manifesto does not say working software or comprehensive documentation to say don't do documentation at all. It only said comprehensive documentation is not allowed. But if your product really requires documentation to be part of your package, and include it. So what is the traceability? What is the auditability? It's because of all those traceability and auditability not being part of the work that we do, we are having a problem. Right? The next one is technical value add. In what way you are adding to the technical component? Technology has become more like a commodity these days. Software is everywhere. Understandings of programs and databases and networking elements are there everywhere. Oh, we all understand. Once upon a time, nobody knew what Wi-Fi means. Now every Tom, Dick, and Harry knows what Wi-Fi is. The first thing that everybody asks when you are checking into a hotel is, what's my Wi-Fi password? Right? So technical things are constantly emerging. So some of those things have to become commodity for us. I'm not asking all of you to be tomorrow expert in Python, but you need to understand Python is a programming language and not a snake. Right? You need to start looking at the process value add. What are the processes that you can add? Yeah, in quality domain, we talk about Six Sigma. What are some of the important things about Six Sigma? In fact, there are many quality control people who cannot even articulate 7 important quality control tools. So how are you actually introducing operational excellence? Rule of 7, we talk about that in Six Sigma, but what is rule of 7? Oh, nobody knows what that means. If it isn't broken, let's not fix it. But problems are already brewing. Right? We're not thinking from all angles. If you don't, this is where the non-value add comes up. I call this CVA, BVA, TVA, PVA, and NVA. Most of us are busy on these NVA activities and not necessarily spending our time equally on all of these activities. I said equally, not preferential treatment of, I would like to be a technical person, I want to focus only on technology. So linking, we talked about the ways of working that are emerging, and we have talked about value streams. And the important thing is bringing people together, engage talent, keywords, engage talent. Don't just focus on incremental innovation, radical innovation, and stuff like that, but engage talent for a sustainable pace. Managing risks proactively. That's how you link all these things together. Now, let's take into how do I implement this? Now I'm focusing on that implementation, right? Now I came up with another terms over here so that we can make this happen. So now business agility, step into business agility. The way I define step is as an acronym. So first, try to understand strategic agility. Why does the business exist? It's not about the vision, mission statement. It's much more than that. What customers are we serving? Why are we serving? How are we serving? What can we be doing differently? So that's a strategic agility. So I want you to start thinking from that angle and say, how can I support leadership? So create the vacuum to get yourself sucked in. The next one is technical agility. How are you able to manage the appropriate technical members so that they are able to do the right thing at the right place in the right time? Right? The next one is going to be execution agility. Execution agility is, are we doing it right? Focusing on elements of how we can scale. Just because somebody comes and says, let's do scale agile, we don't jump on it. And looking at the portfolio, I call it portfolio and not necessarily program, because portfolio includes programs, program includes projects, projects includes products and stuff like that. So I say portfolio. So if your company is not large enough and you are focusing on program, that's fine. But now portfolio is including everything. Now it's connecting the dots all over the place. Now, if you do those 4 things equally well, then you are entering business agility. Not preferential treatment, not pick and choose, but you need to work on all elements at the same time. If one of your spokes in your cycle is not going to be, long enough, it's not going to be working. So strategic agility is all about competitive advantage. How am I generating that? So first, are you able to sense the market? Do you understand opportunity? So you may have to understand what are some of the market research opportunities are. How do I develop a SWOT? How do I develop the different geopolitical forces and how they impact? You need to be able to understand them. Spend some time, right? Innovative culture. How can I actually bring people together? Bring people together. Culture is what you create. Culture is not always what you consume. The next one is, how do I bring risk management into managing these things? Understanding opportunity is all about risk management. Understanding culture and implementing culture is all about risk management. Right? So how do I infuse these concepts over there? Technical agility should be focusing on the business outcomes. Not that I can do something, but should I do this because I have technology? From that angle, team agility, customer centricity, understanding who your customer is. And then getting into built-in quality. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Built-in quality. Quality is not like a salt that you can add towards the later point. Quality by design. We talk about house of quality and many other frameworks over there, but how do you build quality by design? And these are the reasons why we created what is called a test-driven development in DevOps. Acceptance, trust-driven development, the 3 C's of a user story, the card, conversation, and confirmation. We talk about all those things, but how are we implementing them? When you write a requirement, there needs to be test cases. If there is no test cases, there is no requirement. Right? Built-in quality. The next one is going to be continuous improvement, not necessarily learning the same mistake, but learning from everybody else. Innovative curiosity. What is the experiment that you have tried within your company? We talk about that in the balanced scorecard, learning and improvement. What are some of those things that you are bringing? Well, you attended today's session. What are you taking from today's session and how are you promoting that level of thinking, systems thinking? Where do you want? What is systems thinking? Where do I want to go? Where am I? How do I go? What do I give up? When do I know I have arrived? So systems thinking is bringing the holistic picture. How are you adding value to the company? Right? The next one is How do I bring risk management again? Because everything that you are trying to do, the platform that you are creating as a result of technical work, or the actual product that you are creating as part of your consolidated effort, they all have to make sense. Right? So how am I actually looking at project, program, portfolio level risks and manipulating all these things together? Execution agility, focusing on doing right things, and we do this as part of the leadership. Asking those powerful questions. The next one is basically doing things right. Do what you say you will do and how effectively you are doing it. And last but not least, deliver predictably. This is what we are talking in terms of time boxing. Right? Say what you say you will do in this particular case. Finally, the portfolio agility. We are in this game together. It's not like my manager, my leader, my middle management, my developer, my designer, my tester. We are all in this game together. Now, how do I do this? How to balance risky impediments and yet accelerate value delivery. We have lots of techniques there. Depending upon whether you are looking at the portfolio level, program level, or product level, there are different techniques that are available, and these techniques differ based upon the industry. The next one is how to resolve and risk quality. Some could be emerging, some you would not have pictured, some could increase probability, some could reduce probability. How are you limiting the risk exposure? What risk development plans do you have? What are your contingency? What are your fallback? We talk about all these things, but where are they? Where are they? Doesn't matter whether it is agile, safe, disciplined agile, scrum, doesn't matter what framework of choice that you use to deliver products. But at the end of the day, these things exist because that is how business delivers value. Even if I leave the company, I should be able to get the project succeed. My success is not dependent upon how long I stay in the company, but my success is dependent upon how the business continues even in my absence. And that brings us, how do I continuously improve productivity? Right, that's the step into agility, the 4 important things that you need to focus on. So I am coming up with 3 important elements in each one of those things so that you are able to actually focus on these things and implement them. So in my humble opinion, business value, therefore, is a function of risk management. How effectively you are able to identify, predict, analyze, and respond to risks is how your products, programs, portfolios, and everything else, are going to be dependent upon the risk management functionality, right? So I do have some takeaways, and I will share the takeaway with the team as they are delivering. But I have predicted some of my trends. You may or may not necessarily relate to some of them, or you may have your own trends. Identify them. So how do I make it your own? This is where I'm trying to give away this takeaway. Future trends. In my booklet, you will see future trends that you resonate with. It could be some of what I said. It could be something else outside of what I said. Identify those trends. I have given 5 trends over here. From these things, what are some of the things that you would like to include? Where are you prepared? Where are you not prepared? So it's your SWOT. I feel like this is a trend that I am picking up, but I don't know anything about it. Maybe stakeholder engagement. You don't know much about it. You want to know more about it. Maybe about capital project selection, you don't know anything about it, and you may want to know more about it. I don't know whatever the trends are. So now you are breaking down from these 5 elements, a few things that you need to start working on. It's your own gap analysis. That's your individual development plan. From there, you create, all right, I don't have money for all of them. I won't have time for all of them. My family commitments, my professional commitments, all these things. From here, narrow down to at least a few things that you can work on to do. These to-do should be mandatory, some wish list, and some stop list. What am I stopping so that I can get time for must to do and could do? I'll send this information. Now, this is a summary slide of how everything came together. And with that, I would like to thank and take questions.
This is fantastic, Dr. Rajagopalan. Great content and excellent insights here. a lot to ponder. So the floor is open for questions. I know it's 1 p.m. already, but if you would like to continue this discussions for another 5-10 minutes, we can definitely do that. Questions? Do you have any questions?
I was wondering if it was possible to see the execution agility slide again.
Oh, okay. Execution agility slide. There you go. Is there something that you want me to elaborate on, or you just wanted to see?
I wanted to see it again. I'm kind of going over my notes again after this, and I think there's a lot of good takeaways from this. I'm just getting into the time where I'm kind of putting my work history together, my resume together, trying to understand how I want to position myself and market myself, and understanding the important, like you said, the value add that I can bring to the table. And I think this was a good review of all of the different places that we need to look at to kind of investigate for ourselves. And like you said, do that gap assessment.
Yes. 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 Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Don't be shy. If I don't know the answer to the question, I will say I don't know.
You made some excellent points throughout your presentation here. And most importantly, you talk about repackaging, how different consulting firms or institutions are repackaging existing ideas, but using different words, to make it more appealing. It's really all about marketing. But the way you unpack this is fantastic, and I like how you present the idea. The flow of work is really interesting and informative, really.
Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you. We all know, how quality is important, so we had to do a quality job here.
That's right. That's right. And if you think about it, and you emphasize the value of risk management, the International Organization for Standardizations define risk as the effect of uncertainty on objectives. Right. And if you think about it, if you have objectives, you want to achieve them, you want to reach them. And proper risk management at every level of the organization, this is really what's going to help you achieve those objectives. And I couldn't agree more that risk management has to be done at every level, and how you associate it with value creation, right, and value capture is really important, right. I believe. Yes, absolutely.
And one of the important things, this is again for all of you, is somehow culturally or for various reasons, we associate risk to be a negative word or having a negative effect on it. It could be a positive effect. When you are working on developing a new drug, maybe you can develop a patent. Maybe you can create a new idea that is going to sustain for the next 100 years. I don't know. It's simple things. When you are going and buying a lottery, the expectation, I hope, when you buy a lottery ticket, the expectation is that you will win. No one of us actually goes and buys a lottery thinking that we are going to lose. Otherwise, yes, that money is much better spent on a cup of coffee.
This is fantastic. And Noah is asking whether they'd be able to see the video again. Yes, the answer is yes. Professor Rajagopalan is going to share a PDF version of his presentations with you, and the video will be posted on the YouTube channel, which I shared in the chat, if you take a look at it here.
Definitely.
It's 1:05 now. Unfortunately, I have to go to another meeting.
Thank you very much, John. fantastic.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
and-
well, thank you so much, Dr. Rajagopalan. It's great to have you here. We need actually to have you more than just roundtables.
You'll be here in November, I believe, right? Or
Yes, I'll be
December?
back in
November.
November.
Another
Absolutely.
presentation.
And I look forward to seeing you, obviously, at the Global Symposium.
Global Symposium.
Next
Yes,
week.
I'll see you there. Yes. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, John, for the opportunity again. And nice meeting with all of you. So wish you all the best.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And see you next week, John. And if there is anything about our presentations, please let me know.
Will do. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.